Hello there. It's October 27th, 2020, and my name is Joe Weston, and we're here for our weekly online global practice for reviving the global heart. And as always, it's a joy to be here. I look forward to it. I noticed that with the regular practice that we're doing, um, I've got the rewiring of Tuesday. So by Monday afternoon, evening, I'm like, oh, we're going to be joining in here. And it's comforting to my system to know that we're gathering with people who share similar vision, um, hold in our hearts the possibility for a world that actually can manifest lasting peace, um, a group of support. And it just always, every week, it's just an affirmation for me and a confirmation that the fact that dozens of random people come together from around the world who really don't know each other, and we can still create such a community and an environment where people feel safe. And this is how I'm experiencing it. You may experience it differently. Feel seen, feel heard, feel acknowledged, and at the same time, noticing the generosity in people's spirit to hold space, to see others, to hear others, and to share with one another our wisdom, um, our joy, our triumphs, and our challenges. So I just want to say how honored I feel for those of you who come back on a regular basis and those of you who jump in as well to contribute to that. Things are accelerating on this planet as we are sensing and feeling. and as I say, these practices really help me to stay regulated as best I can, to cultivate the resilience. And even when looking at the news or seeing what's happening around me, to still be able to practice fierce compassion. And if we remember what the word practice means, is that we're not perfect at it. and that for me, it sounds really logical, but if you take time to really contemplate it, there's a lot of wisdom in it. Just spending a life practicing resilience and fierce compassion is already an enormous contribution to yourself, those around you, and the planet itself, and all beings on the planet. So yes, and these times that we're in, for me, have been great teachers. There are certain individuals that I won't name that I will say are my greatest teachers at this very moment. And I bless them for what they hold. I wish I had other teachings at the moment, but these are the ones that seem to be presenting themselves to us. So I want to, just thinking of that for those of us in the United States, as we come now 1 week away from an election, how are you doing? Like, that's just the question. How are you doing? And what's unfolding? And it's not, I mean, I'm in connection with people around the world who are struggling and who are challenged and who are experiencing things in various different ways. And I've been getting to some writing on this and deeper reflections on this, and really considering, what is unfolding and what could the solutions be? And we talk about different ways that we can find solutions, but I just wrote an article um, based on what's unfolding right now, and in reference for the Fierce Civility Project, this project that we're doing at this moment, to take the respectful confrontation method to the next level, from personal transformation to cultural transformation. And in this article, I start with a quote that I want to share with you that I use often, and that and people, many of you have seen if you've been in my workshops. I have quotes around the room on the walls, and it's by Eleanor Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt said this quote she didn't say this quote, she said this statement, I'm quoting her, in 1960, when she was working so hard and feverishly to get the United Nations established, and all of her work around human rights and justice for all, in a sense, when these concepts were kind of new for the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And this was right in the moment when there was the missile crisis between the Soviet Union and the United States, where on some level we were on the brink of a World War III. And she says, we have to face the fact that either all of us are going to die together or we are going to learn to live together. And if we are to live together, we have to talk. Now that was in 1960. That was 60 years ago. Just think about, woof, did we learn that lesson or not? And what that and in 1960 she was saying, she was presenting a world where it was that extreme. We're either going to live together or die together. So imagine the extremity. This is a wise woman, not a very, she thought through things. It's not just a reactive thing she said. And her conclusion in 1960 that the planet was so far in strife or in whatever it was in, that there was the question of whether we were all live together or die together. And here we are 60 years later. And what I find so fascinating about this statement is that she really says it. She gives the solution in it. She presents the issue, which is that if we all want to live, we have to do it together. That there's not even a question. And that she was presenting even in 1960 just how interconnected and interdependent we all are. Human beings are to the planet, human beings are to other creatures. I mean, just think about bees, right? Just to start there. Think about the planet itself. Think about how we're interdependent with each other and interconnected, particularly 60 years later when we have the internet and when we have nuclear proliferation to the point where we can wipe each other out, basically. That this idea of isolationism and not being interconnected is a fantasy. That's my truth. And I think that's what she was positing as well. And that to me is like what she's giving the solution there. She's saying the first thing is to acknowledge that we are interconnected and that we are interdependent. And anything that we're doing or saying or experiencing or thinking that's not that is causing the strife. That the first step of overcoming the strife is to step into a deeper level of not only understanding that, but in all of our thoughts, words, and actions, living that. And here we are in 2020. If this virus hasn't convinced us how interconnected we are and how interdependent we are, literally, you walk down the street and just blowing out could cause someone harm, and vice versa. If we're not seeing the level of interconnectedness now, when will we? So we're presented with opportunities and teachings here. And the question is, are we alert and aware of it to actually step in and make the internal transformations that I'm trying to do, and I think many of us are trying to do. She also says that if it's going to work, then we have to talk. And that, of course, for those of you who know me, that's the resonance of the work I do, which is around communication and understanding different levels of communication. And I would take it even further and say it's not that we have to talk. It's that I feel, certainly now 60 years later, we have to re-examine how we talk and just question that the way we're talking is not working. If the way we're communicating with each other to try to solve problems were to work, we would have solved them already. All we do is talk on some level. All we do is come from ideas and theories. And if those were going to work, they would have solved the problems already. So for me, I think it's for each one of us to really consider, how are we talking and how can are we willing to invest in cultivating a new way of speaking, a new vocabulary, and a new strategy of how we engage with people in difficult conversations. And I believe that is the next step where we can really see change and transition happen. And that's not easy because we're so wired, we're all educated to come from a place of judgment and criticism and othering and labeling and quantifying things according to data, and not really being encouraged to learn how to express ourselves from our feelings, from our bodies, from our needs. And for those of you who know the respectful confrontation work, and I say often, the language of power is the language of feelings and needs. That, again, if just arguing ideas back and forth were going to get us to work more harmoniously together, to connect with each other and come up with new solutions, we would have already done it. In fact, it's creating more polarization and more isolation and more strife. And there are many, and so I'm really advocating for that, for us all to really examine, how are we communicating? If we're doing this practice on a regular basis, and we're really cultivating, holding more beings in our heart and being more in alignment with our heart, maybe the next step is that before we have a conversation with someone, even challenging conversations, we connect with our core and we connect with our heart, so that what is coming from our heart, what we are saying, is always in resonance with our hearts. And I believe that is what's going to shift the conversations, not the words themselves, but the heart resonance coming from your humanity. And even with your greatest teachers, as I said, I have many, to find a way, even with your greatest teachers, even with those that you label adversary, to be able to connect with their humanity. There's an organization I was reading about, there's many organizations, one's called the People's Action. And they're actually, during this election time, they're actually going and talking to, they are particularly more leaning, they definitely want Biden to win as president. And they're talking to different voters, people who are on the fence or are Trump voters. And they've actually had deep conversations with people to get them to not just argue points, but to get them, and their strategy is, which is very familiar to those of us here and the work of respectful confrontation, is to listen to their pain, to listen to their struggles, and to empathize there, and to level with them from that place and find the common ground. And what if if we were to say, I'd like to have one task for the next week, for the next month, for the next 3 months, for the next year? What if our only task at this point, or one of them, could be, I'm going to do everything I can that everyone I encounter, make sure that they feel seen, that they feel heard, and that they feel understood. I think it's not about donating money. It's not about starting an organization. It's not about running for, it's a very simple thing. Yeah, and I think it's achievable to make that just like a daily practice. Like, I'm going to sit for a minute and do my practice to say, I'm going to try to remember with every encounter that whomever I am with, that as long as they are with me, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel understood. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to share the similar viewpoints. I do have to make sure I'm safe if it's a challenging conversation, and I don't know where this person's at or their level of volatility. But if I'm safe, and if they're safe, and we're engaging, how can I activate that? Because I believe on some level that a lot of the acting out, a lot of the violence, a lot of the policies that are actually being manifested because of a lot of volatility or because of a lot of strife, stems from that very basic thing: people who just aren't feeling heard, seen, or understood. So I just want to offer that. That was just resonating with me as we are experiencing our world at the moment. Let's take that into our practice. So let's get ourselves seated in a way. Once again, for those of you who are here for the first time, this practice is a practice that I've cultivated and developed from respectful confrontation methodology called the core exercise. And in this practice, what we're doing is we're cultivating a deeper level of presence, awareness, balance, and flow within ourselves, with others, and the planet, cultivating a deeper level of resilience and fierce compassion. So to begin this practice, we start connecting with sitting in a posture called the power sit, where we're sitting with our spine straight without being rigid, elongating from the back of the neck. Relax the jaw, the shoulders, the belly, and identifying and making contact with a point in your lower belly, which I would call your center, your core. And if you want to investigate that, it's the width of 3 fingers below your navel and a third of the way into the body. So if you put your fingers together, place your index finger over your navel, where your pinky resides. That's the width of 3 fingers below your navel. Bringing your attention to where your pinky now is, going inside of your body about a third of the way from the front of the body. So now focusing into a point in your lower belly. Placing your full attention on that spot, the width of 3 fingers below your navel, a third of the way into the body. This is what I would call your core, your center of gravity, impulse, creativity, personal power, and your center of awareness, how you perceive reality, your reality. So connecting with your personal power, from your personal power and awareness, become aware of the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on the floor. Bringing awareness and sensation and sensitivity to those parts of the body that are connecting with what you're sitting on the floor. From those points, allowing yourself to drop in, letting gravity bring you closer to the ground. Cultivating that sense as a rewiring of your nervous system, of really experiencing the sensation of that you are held. From your center, becoming aware of your physical body. What if you actually practice the same thing with yourself at this moment? That your intention here is to simply listen. Let yourself be seen, be heard, be understood by yourself, from you. From your center, become aware of your emotions without judgment. Observing the emotions that are flowing through you at this moment. Instead of judgment, activate curiosity. From your center, become aware of your thoughts without attaching to the thoughts, simply activating a curiosity. Maintaining a connection with your personal power and awareness, bringing now awareness to your heart, or the middle of your chest, your heart center, where your heart power resides. Understanding, compassion, respect. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of the part of you that may have access to connection with something larger than yourself. And from that part of you, again, being curious, investigating what that part of you is. And from that part of you, from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of your connection with something larger than yourself. Again, being curious. And now with more of an awareness of yourself in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And from your center and from your heart, now with a deeper awareness of yourself in this present moment, keeping your eyes closed, become aware of your surroundings in all directions. What might your surroundings have to tell you? Be curious. How are your surroundings influencing you at this moment? How might you be influencing your surroundings? With more of an awareness of yourself and your surroundings in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. Presence, awareness, balance, and flow. With more of an awareness of yourself and your surroundings, from your center and from your heart, become aware of those in this meditation practice today. Engaging from your personal power and your heart with the personal power and the heart of each person in this meditation circle, you could say, various parts of the world. Again, activating your curiosity from your heart. How might these people want to be seen, heard, or understood? And with more of an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Building on this, always maintaining a connection with yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle. feeling that anchor, that support, that community, as we now expand our awareness to hold space for all human beings. So from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of all human beings, beginning with those that you would label loved ones. From your core and from your heart, connecting with the core and heart of each one of them that arises in your heart. And imagine the experience of being in space with these people, with that deep awareness of a deep knowing that they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel understood. What would their facial expression be? Their body posture? And even bringing it back to you, that as you engage with those you call loved ones, that you feel seen, heard, and understood. What would your sensations be like? Physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings on this planet that you would label stranger. And from your center and heart, engaging with each and every one of them. Imagine. And with each one of those human beings that you would label stranger, that from you, they get a sense of feeling seen, heard, or understood from you. What would their facial expressions be? Their emotional state? And what if you felt seen, heard, and understood by each and every one of them? Make sure you're breathing, letting energy flow, emotions to flow. Now stretching our resilience here as we, from our center and our hearts, connecting with those human beings that you would label adversary. Who arises in your heart? And again, from your center and your heart, connecting with their center and their heart with honor and respect. And mustering up the aspiration and the action of being able to see, hear, and understand them. What would their facial expressions be? Their state of being? And what would your state of being be if you felt seen, heard, or understood by them? Tracking your own energy, your own emotions, allowing them to flow. All feelings are welcome. Your own heart rate, your own rhythm of your breath. And just imagining now all human beings in your heart, and just imagine, for the fun of it, an entire human population where everyone feels seen, heard, and understood. What would everyone's facial expression be, for instance? Now with more of an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, those in this meditation circle, and all human beings, regardless of how you label them, loved one, stranger, adversary, from your center and from your heart, take a full deep breath in, right up, big breath into your heart, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Take this image with you of all human beings, feeling seen, heard, and understood, into your heart. And now bringing your awareness from your center and from your heart back to those in this meditation circle. As we all bring this imprint in our hearts to one another, as we share that with each other. Rejoicing. With gratitude and honor and respect, taking those in this meditation circle into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surroundings. Maybe you learned something new about your surroundings since you've now listened to what it had to say or be. Taking your surroundings into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself. And with the entire human family, this meditation circle, and your surroundings in your heart, take a moment to allow yourself to experience the sensation of being fully seen, heard, and understood. Allowing your nervous system to remember this, new rewiring of the neural pathways, new muscle memory, taking these sensations, this energy, or however you want to define it, into each of your cells, nurturing your cells, feeding your organs, maybe igniting your heart, filling up the battery of your core, of the battery of your core. Another way to close this practice, let's take one final breath in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Very slowly open your eyes. Stretch your body, shake your body, look around the room. Your satisfied room that now feels fully seen, heard, and understood. And so we started with the motivation. We've done our practice. So we have some time now to reflect. Does anybody want to share reflections on what I shared to start with, or what came up for you in the meditation, or anything else that's coming up? I just want to acknowledge, Cheryl, what you say is very powerful. Deep, genuine listening is an important step. Yeah.
I have to say that when you said reach out with curiosity, normally my outward flow tends to be very circular, and it just I visualize it as a circle that's growing larger and encompassing the things around me as you're talking. But when you said to look with curiosity, it was like there was tendrils going out and they were spiraling and going in different directions, and it was like I was viewing it in a different way than I usually had, and I liked that. Just it made, when you didn't use the word curious, I found myself going right back to circular again. But anytime I heard the word curious, it was like I automatically started sending varying tendrils out to look differently. I appreciated that.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah, curiosity, we underestimate it. It gets you active. It's an active state of being. And I would say if I were to interpret what you're saying is that it inspired a deeper creativity in a way, or shifted your patterns to find new creative ways to experience. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I have to say, Joe, that this morning those words really did resonate with me, both as a human and, to be honest, as a designer. The idea that being curious, looking, so importantly, listening, because it's what we do as designers. We have to be outside of ourselves and put our ideas and opinions next to those that we design for, which are sometimes different than what we believe, you know, or are committed to, and we have to bridge that. So that really helped bring something into focus this morning, and it was much needed. So applying that to the practice of being a human being, not just the practice of being a designer, I think is very helpful in this ultra specific moment. So thank you.
Thanks, Trish. A lot of wisdom in that. What you're acknowledging is that to truly listen to someone, you have to also put aside your viewpoints, etc. Not that you have to let go of them, but just make room for being able to experience someone else's.
I loved in this one that you evoked us to think about how it would feel for people to be seen, heard, understood. I think that was a really important shift for me especially the adversaries. I mean, I know that intellectually that's important. To really know it, that was good. Thank you for that today, Joe.
And Cheryl, what if that is the new way of talking, the new way of communicating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Gold.
Thank you. Keith brought in a quote: "Joy is not the absence of suffering. Joy is the presence of curiosity, is the presence of discovery. Curiosity is not seeking, it is living." Thank you. Beautiful.
Jennifer, when you were doing the circular thinking versus, when you were talking about the circular thinking versus the tendrils, I was hearing tendril, but I was also hearing tender. And I was reminded that us being open and in the willingness to be curious, like this opens us and therefore allows us to be, instead of protected and closed and in our own knowing and in our I'm right and that's afflicted, or the judgment piece. I could feel the tendrils keeping us tender, not in a weak place, but in a vulnerable to possibility and feeling place of connection. So thanks for that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Joe, I'd like to share something regarding the awareness of our surroundings. And we're sitting here looking out our back window in the kitchen, and we're surrounded by trees here in Northwest DC. And it's a very active migration period right now. And trying to relate that to how we categorize people or make judgments of people. It seems like bird watchers especially kind of categorize birds, and some have better reputations than others. But looking at these birds flying around right now, they all seem to be getting along just fine despite their differences. So maybe we can take a lesson from that. Some thought.
I'll go with that. I'll go with that. Thank you. Thank you.
The blue jays are the bullies of my yard, but the other birds find a way to deal with the blue jays.
That's exactly right. In my opinion, I agree.
So that's the thing. Like, why are the blue jays bullies? Maybe they don't feel seen, heard, or understood.
Maybe.
And that they're bullying because they're desperately in need of that. Won't know until you have.
They may not feel heard, but they're definitely heard.
Yeah, well, we see that playing. Yeah, definitely. Let's translate. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Making a lot of noise doesn't mean that you're being seen, heard, or understood.
Or that you feel heard.
Yeah, got it. Actually, you could say the louder you are is an indication that you don't. So Trish says, curiosity is also a sign of optimism and a willingness to move forward, to make a leap and take a risk. Beautiful. Thank you. And Rebecca, thank you for what you share. Thank you, Joe. This was exactly what I needed today. Not only the space for myself, but the connection with each of you. This week may we all see, hear, and understand, as well as be seen, heard, and understood. What a beautiful dedication, which I think this is a good moment to do our dedication. So thank you for Rebecca for bringing that in, and all the energies that we've created, and what we're envisioning for a future. Let's direct that, and that may be and that a part of that is that not this week, but maybe let's just start with a week. Okay, I'll go with a week. This week, may we all see, hear, and understand, as well as being seen, heard, and understood. May we all feel that our voice matters, and may we all listen to one another in that way. May all beings on this planet have enough fresh water to drink and food to eat. And may all governments and leaders govern from a place of wisdom as opposed to fear and greed. Let's take a breath. Beautiful, thank you. So next week we'll be here for those in the US, if you haven't noticed, will be the US US elections. Bring people along. You can all hold space together in that. And just to remind you that Wednesday evenings, we're offering the stress reduction meetup. We're doing this for around election time, and we're actually going to continue that through the year. It's going to convert from stress reduction meetups for the presidential time to stress reduction meetups for the holiday season. And there are many other events we're doing on, Todd just put the link in. It's a contribution based, as we learned last week, the generosity of our hearts. And wishing you all well this week. Stay grounded. I'm seeing a couple of things here. Tammy, thank you for the work you're doing for our democracy. Dominique says, feel some people reflect that they want to be seen, heard, and some others feel something. Sorry, Dominique, but it's we're closing a little bit. So thank you for sharing your point. And get in touch if you have any questions, and if you just want to connect, we're here for you. And see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Joe.